Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. And if you're listening, I'm clapping.
He's
not
clapping.
Not flapping.
Morning if you're listening on podcast. Do you know what I did first thing? I did something last night in bed that I've never done before.
I didn't want to say anything, but it was quite nice, wasn't it?
It was.
It made a high-pitched shrieking sound.
No, but I literally can't believe I did it. But I'm glad I did. Because I never ever listen. We do all kinds of different podcasts, but I never have listened to any of them because I can't bear listening to myself. But I listened to this on podcast.
Bloody hell.
Do you know what? It was quite nice.
Was it?
It wasn't bad.
Yeah, it sounds all right.
It wasn't bad.
One of the things they say that you can do to spice up your love life, and let's face it, this Friday we'll have been married 21 years, guys.
I only found that out yesterday.
21
I thought it was
years.
20.
Yeah, 21 years. Is to listen to a variety of podcasts across the week in bed with your backs to each other on AirPods so that you may as well be in completely different countries.
Okay, so...
I'm not suggesting that's what happens most nights, but it feels like the Iron Curtain.
If you're listening on podcast, I promise you that we don't witter on for too long.
We do. We talk about the nature of our sleeping arrangements.
I blooming hate it. Anyway,
Wittering?
I want you to all have a bit of a guess. So I was just over on our Coffee Moaning doing Instagram live there, and somebody remarked on my tan. Look at my tan. You noticed how tanned I am?
Yeah, you got nice.
And I was tempted to just go, oh, thanks, I've been in the garden, but I can't. You know what I'm like. Anyway, so it's fake tan. And we were talking about how important it is. What do you think? I think that's good. How important it is to prep before you put your fake tan on. For years, I didn't use fake tan because I was like, oh God, everyone looks orange. You can see it all around the knuckles and this. So the most important thing, and nothing will stop me from doing this, Mark is now riveted, is prep.
You said you weren't going to witter on, and you're now wittering on.
So 2 days before I'm going to put fake tan on, I prep. I scrub my skin, I exfoliate, then I exfoliate again.
Does that sound like a cheese grater?
I slather with cream, I slough and I rough. Thank you, good shit lollipop.
Do you slime and slip?
So I do all of that, and then I put cream on my elbows and my knees and I put the fake tan on, and it looks amazing. I take a little flight to Saint-Tropez, basically, that's what I've done. So anyway, I was telling them how I'd got in the shower and was so pissed off because I'd forgot, Mark's now yawning for those on podcast, because I'd forgotten my exfoliator. So I said, can anyone guess what I used to exfoliate? And people have come up with toilet brush.
That wouldn't be nice. But it would certainly get you the right colour.
Oh, Mark, no, we're not doing this today. You're not behaving like a 4-year-old.
Toothbrush.
So anyway,
electric toothbrush.
So Mark said electric toothbrush. Anyone else have a guess? Salt is a brilliant one, Angel. You can get rock salt, put it in soap and scrub. But no, it wasn't that.
I know what they use. What's it called? I mean, I'm not being donkey sperm. Isn't that something that they use?
No, they don't. So yeah, salt and sugar. That's all great. But remember, I'm in the shower and there's people in here. I didn't want to come out. So I used the shower scourer that I clean the shower with.
The one you put on the toothbrush.
That's how desperate I was because I was so determined I was going to do my 48-hour prep and I didn't want to get out. So, not a Brillo pad, Joyce.
It doesn't sound much different.
No, Brillo pad. I'll tear myself to pieces. But it is one of those. So I really washed it. I washed it with nice smelling Dove shower gel. And then I scrubbed it. Tell you what, guys, it came up a treat.
What did?
So, before, you don't need to go and buy expensive exfoliating gloves.
Are we still talking about this? Are we still talking about this?
Give me a little shouting. I'll rinse out. Okay, I'm moving on now. That's it. Hand over to you, Mark.
But on that note, can I say, for a man, there is nothing more intimidating than in our bathroom upstairs, the range of products that are on the window ledge. I get into the bath like a classic man, often forgetting where my towel is. So I have none of the kit to get out of the bath in a responsible fashion. And then when I've got in the bath, I usually get into this is classic me, and maleness, I don't know, maybe other men do this. I'll always get into the bath, it's too hot. So I'm burnt my toes, standing, waiting, and then does anyone else stand in the bath until it cools down?
Do you know what? It's one of the things that I find, it's really weird. I get irrational rage.
With me?
Always have, our whole marriage, and you don't know this.
Wow.
For a man, That is the cleverest person I've ever met. Smartest, except he can be very fucking stupid as well.
Nonsense.
Every single time he gets in the bath, he screams in agony.
Oh, why does it annoy you so much? Is this 21 years
Because
of marriage?
it's so stupid. How
It
can
is,
somebody...
I'm
Look,
throwing myself under the bus and into the bath.
insanity is repeating the same
Don't-
behaviours, expecting a different outcome. So every time he screams in agony, because he doesn't test it with his hand, every time he has a bowl of soup, he screams in agony because he just puts the whole spoonful. That's got to be a condition.
Okay.
And, just finally, he doesn't take a towel. It's like,
No,
who goes into the bathroom without checking they've got a towel?
Now, we used to have there's a gap above our bathroom door where a pane of glass goes, and there's a pane of glass there now. And for many, many years, we didn't have a pane of glass. So got our lovely builder, Jivco, in, and I said, I'm putting a pane of glass there. So we've got total privacy in the bathroom.
And
then I discovered that it's a nightmare, because when there's not toilet rolls in there, no one can throw them through the top. And when there's not a towel, no one can throw the towel through the top.
But I really resent having to come all the way up the bloody stairs to throw you a towel.
Okay, well, I really resent this. Whilst we're on this topic, and we will get to the news, everyone. Whilst we're on the topic, I really resent this. So whenever I go to the supermarket and I'm getting a few bits and bobs to fill those gaps that whatever shop you've done hasn't quite filled.
Oh,
No, hang on.
God.
Hang on.
You have crossed a red line.
Hang on. I will have my pound of flesh. I will, and it's been known on occasion to get, replacement and new toothbrushes and toothpaste and stuff like that. Then I will buy something marked for men. Simple or Dove body wash for men. I don't know how they decide whether it is for men. I bring it home. I take it upstairs to the bathroom. I have a bath. I've burnt myself. I've got no towel, but I've got my body wash. Next time I go up, I still haven't got my towel. I've still burnt my feet. I reach over, where's the body wash? There are 85 jars of nonsensical liquids up there that relate to nothing. I go to one, it's a serum. What the fuck is a serum? You go to another one, it's a body moisturiser. What for there? Nothing says shampoo, conditioner, or body wash.
Can I just say one thing?
And then I used one, and it was the dog shampoo.
Well, he did, yeah, because it looked nice. It was blue. It was in a glass jar.
It looked gorgeous, and it smelled lovely.
But listen.
Yes.
He who hath not sinned cast the first stone.
Okay.
Because if somebody takes a tablespoonful of your shower gel, right?
It's always in the
That does not add up to when I go to my beautiful face creams and I've got 2 fingers that have done the gardening, that have been plunged into it and scraped out because you're suddenly, all of a sudden, desperate to look after your skin because you keep looking at me and saying, oh, your skin looks good, and you've plunged your fingers and sometimes left debris in there from the garden. I'm not even joking.
I see your complaint,
don't keep
and
banging.
I raise your complaint.
Don't bang it.
Why is it whenever I go to have a shave, my
not me.
finest razor
not me.
is always upstairs alongside a strange hand glove mitten. What are the bits of kit that you have up there? I was in the bath and I pulled this thing and it had a round thing on a wibbly wobbly thing.
You know what? You should do a live where you get everyone to tell you
What the fuck everything is. Dog
There's
shampoo.
lots of people saying, oh my God, is this what 21 years of marriage looks like? We're married 21 years this Friday.
Yeah, and we now go to bed and sleep with our backs to each other with... Oh, no, we've done that, sorry. Okay. It's all coming out now. Yeah, 21 years of marriage. That's all. Why is it doing that? Verifying my... Don't want you to verify. So, have you come here to listen to our bathroom antics? Have you fuck?
I believe in brushing your body.
That's what
by the way.
I love. You know what they need
Always
to do?
start from the feet up towards the heart.
For This Morning, they have to... Who remembers those moments on This Morning where it was, they had such high moments, didn't they? Like, the first scrotum, I think, was shown on daytime TV there, wasn't it? The first...
When they did the back crack and sclack.
Slack.
No, what's it called?
Back, crack and sack.
Yeah.
Back, sack and crack.
Yeah.
I hate that expression.
So do I.
Really do.
And I don't want to see it.
And you know what? I hate it being referred to as a sack. And if anyone hasn't seen Beau is Afraid, and you go and see it, be warned.
I heard something so awful the other day. I didn't know this was how things were described.
Whisper it to me.
Okay. Guess what I'm
Guess what she's
describing?
whispering. Go on. Say that again. Who said that?
Somebody.
Who?
No, I don't want to tell you.
It's disgusting.
Apparently it's a new word people use.
What people?
Young people.
Is this a young person who said this?
Shh. Oh,
It's
our
hard.
daughter singing.
It's hard for me to be shocked by it. It's not even like it's shocking, because I say shocking. It's a pleasure wand, says Lucy Shadbolt. Flesh rod?
Yeah.
Who says flesh rod?
People.
I don't think you've been hanging out with the wrong people.
Isn't that awful?
Oh, flesh rod.
Yeah. How did we get to this? Why are we talking about this?
You said it.
Oh, because we were talking about back crack and slack, or whatever it is. Okay,
Flesh
yeah,
rod.
carry on.
Pleasure rod. Oh, God. Okay, fleshlight. Yeah, anyway, yeah, so this morning they never had a flesh rod, but there we go. On a more serious note, Philip Schofield. The Schofield story continues. The Daily Mail is leading with a story this morning in which obviously they're poring over and going through all the footage in the world of everything that's been there. And
God, this is the thing, isn't it? You know when we talk to our children, totally separate from the Philip thing, totally different. We all do it. We all talk to our kids, don't we, about, what is put out online, everything is out there for forever. And when you think about programs, TV programs, and the way that people are searching and hunting for any moment of anything, it's like, it's really quite unnerving, I think.
Well,
because things, and I'm not talking about Philip here, I'm talking, things can be said at times when there were different times and and yet the thought that people just go trawling through, I think is it's just unpleasant. I've said before here, I think the witch hunt is just, I mean, I can't stand what Philip's done, and all I think about all the time is the young man, because I think he's got lost in the story here. I think there aren't people thinking about him. And obviously, it's out there. We all know him and, liked him very much. And for people to keep looking for clips and photos of him, they need to stop
of the young
doing
man.
that.
Of the young man. Yeah. It's that.
I mean, this is his life. Have we learnt nothing from what happens when we hound people like this?
Yeah.
I mean, as I say again, Philip is a liar. And he's admitted it. He's behaved disgustingly and appallingly. And if that was my child that he'd met at a drama club, my God, hell hath no fury. But where is the young man in all this?
Absolutely.
And people looking for a moment where he may have looked at him. Now, if people are looking to see what actually went on, and I'm not searching any of these things. I don't want to look at any of these things. But if there is a case to be built, that's a very different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and what I was going to say was, when you do look back at these things, everything is shot through with a rather sinister sort of air and aspect to them. But what's being forgotten here is that the kind of what I would call almost the warm prop in all this footage, including the photo, there was a photo of Rant, wasn't there, of him and the person in question. It's like if as long as they're sort of, pixelated out, the person can be featured, but for the person, they know they're being pixelated out. Do you know what I mean? It's no different for the person who's being featured.
There's a lot of photos out there of him looking very young, and it's very upsetting.
Yeah. And the other thing I'd really like to say is, I know a number of people seem to think, for some reason, that I don't know how, because we've been incredibly anti-Philip Schofield's behaviour and his conduct. But there seems to be a suggestion, or even an inference, that perhaps we're sort of in any way justifying grooming if grooming has taken place. The problem with the grooming accusation and potential is that's the aspect that can't be proven yet, in terms of, but it doesn't, what I would say is it doesn't look good. If, as they say, the age he met him at, the theatre company, and the course of events to him getting the job, you've got to be careful the extent to which you say that in any public forum. On any public forum, you have to be careful. That doesn't mean people ourselves included, aren't looking at it and going, hang on a minute, well, this is where things need to be explored and looked at and examined. And presumably when ITV go before the select committee, the MPs, I think ITV need to send their top brass there so that everyone feels that the right people have all been sort of talked through it all, because, MPs are going to be grilling them on what the exact nature of it all was. And I think...
it's not going to go away, is it, until the questions are
and
answered.
the potential for the potential for grooming is clear, but it's impossible to say it's absolutely happened, even when you look at what we understand to be the facts. If what we see are the facts and we understand to be the facts, then of course it's looking inevitable that something like that's happened, and absolutely a duty of care of sorts has been broken.
But the duty of care to the person,
yes,
because if he is a victim, the victim has the right when they face that, when they talk about and so that's why, nobody is going to push me to say anything about any of the conversations I might have had with him or anything, because it's his life. It's not, it's not any of ours. And we have to be really mindful of this person because of all the things that people are talking may have happened. That needs to be treated, that person needs to be treated with care. I hardly hear his mental health spoken about. I mean, I've probably had more messages sent to me about Philip's mental health than I have.
It's weird, isn't it?
Than I have his, which I find utterly bizarre. People are saying all the time, which on Philip. Well, if you stood up and said you've lied to everybody, your wife, your children, your colleagues, your friends, to everybody, where should our sympathy be going, and where should we be being more protective? Because there is never too much duty of care. I think where there are young people working, there is never too much. So that's why I think, if there are lessons to be learnt, the select committee hopefully will find those, and hopefully things will be corrected. And like we've said many times before on here, that's across the board. For all organisations, there is a thing about power and younger people. And, older men, and some women may be delusional and think that the young people that they're working with just find them incredibly attractive and irresistible. And yet you always have to, and like I said the other day, with actors that I've worked with, I've said to them directly, that person is totally in awe of you. That person is too young to work out what their feelings actually are. And it's up to you to be the adult and to stop anything going on. But many actors I've met don't pay any attention to that.
Saying nothing is why things like this keep happening. It's a form of enabling. I think one of the important things to understand here is the extent to which people have not only asked questions, not only mentioned these things, but also actually talked to the people involved. Again, because one doesn't talk about that publicly out of deference to the person involved, I think it's safe to say that no one is privy to the number of people who have actually talked to the person in question about this, seeking clarity. And yet, when you're given only a certain limited amount of information, you can't actually take things. It's very hard to take things that much further unless you've witnessed, seen, or have some kind of evidence of things. One of the other things I just want to flag out there as a thought, I know a lot of people are talking about narcissism. I mean, in fact, Eamon Holmes brought that into the room, didn't he? That he's the ultimate, he's the sort of textbook narcissist. But even that,
we can't be diagnosing
you can't be diagnosed, but at the same time, I do think this kind of, the feeding frenzy on Holly. Let's not forget for a while here that Holly also at one point will have been an impressionable younger presenter brought in onto a show. The extent to which she was fully cognizant of, how the power structure worked. I mean, I'm not suggesting for a minute there was any Stockholm syndrome or anything like that, but we just don't know. We don't know what the nature of that relationship was.
And I think, I don't know Holly. Like I said, I've said a few nice hellos at do's in corridors past, but I don't know her. But I do know that I've had this when you've gone onto a news show and there's an older, more experienced man, and you can be set off on that foot with them where you're always deferring to them. You know what I mean? And like a bit in awe and very grateful that you've got this job, and and then you're on that foot, and then you kind of stay on that foot. I suppose what I'm saying is we have no idea. We have no idea what went on. Now, people can keep saying, she absolutely knew. We don't know she absolutely knew. So again, gossip and rumour kills. It does. You know, and I think people putting this out every day all over and online, these are all people's, you know, these are people's lives. This is huge. You cannot imagine what this feels like to have the feeling that the whole world is saying something against you. It's not the whole world, but that's what it can feel like.
But
you know?
this is a personal thing. This is not Nadia's opinion. I really, really, really think before one jumps in and kind of gives Holly a good kicking in all of this, one has to really think about, weirdly, a duty of care for her. Because I don't think it's as plain and as simple as we think. When I actually have looked at or dropped in on looking at their working sort of on-screen kind of chemistry even, I've not seen an entirely equal sort of relationship. That's what I'm going to say. The other news around Schofield is that
Well, let's make no doubt about it. Philip was the king, wasn't he, at ITV?
Yeah.
So that you know, whatever. I mean, and when I think of the many people that I've known that have worked with him, you wouldn't have said anything about Philip. Do you know? You just wouldn't. It's the star system, and it doesn't matter where you are. You know, the star.
Yeah, but also the habits of new presenters, the habits of new workers can be moulded, informed, enshrined, and defined by their experience of working with a certain other person long term. So, for example, you know, I worked for the day. Essentially, it was the Daily Mail Evening Standard's television. You know, when you've worked in a newsroom for 2 years, the edges get knocked off you. You become more immune to certain things.
Yeah.
You know, you're sent out to sort of stabbings and stories, and just on that level, your sensitivity diminishes somewhat because you're being thrown at it all the time. And I think by the same standard, if you're plonked alongside a vastly more experienced broadcaster than you, of whom you're slightly starstruck by, of whom is clearly the more senior in that sort of creative partnership on screen, you know, I think just spare a thought for the fact that Holly possibly could have also been, you know, not in the same way as this young person, but and in Ornus will have happened.
It's just the emphatic way everybody's saying this person. You know, there are a lot of young people in that building that working in production that are having a really shit time. You know, there's paparazzi around and stuff, and it's really hard. It's I think we just need to be a bit kinder. I know it's a bit trite, but we do. Just another thing, you know, I'm thinking of a relative of ours who's working in a school, and the headmaster behaved like he was she would tell me stories about this headmaster. I said, oh my God, it sounds like some of the completely egotistical actors and presenters that I've worked with. Treat like God. Nobody's allowed to say anything. So this does cross over into many different industries. There'll be people here that have had bosses or, you know, line managers or whatever that have totally ruled the situation, and there was nothing that could be done or said about them. It really is. Show business, BBC, ITV, wherever you are, has a similar vibe.
And just final little detail in the news, Philip Schofield, sorry, I obviously shaved myself a little bit too briskly. Philip Schofield has been dropped by the Prince's Trust as an ambassador. I don't know why, I just feel would the Prince's Trust just drop? They would probably drop him because of the...
Well, they say it's inappropriate.
Well, the inappropriate relationship with the young male colleague. Obviously, it's pivoting around that, but I suppose, you know, I think there's a suggestion in some places that are they privy to more information? I mean, I think there's a lot of negative publicity around him, obviously.
Or maybe they are just privy to the information that Philip himself has given, which is, let's not forget, I knew him as a teenager, right? And we had an affair. to call somebody unwise and a mistake, to call that person a mistake. You know, the thing is, when people are searching for more and more, just read that statement over a few times, because to me, it shows the measure of all of it. You know, can you imagine calling somebody in public a mistake? There's no mind or care there for that person's mental health. And to make out that this is some way in to help the mental health of that person, I'm like, wow, Okay, so I think if I was working at the Phillips, what's it called, the Prince's Trust, and I listened to no other noise apart from Philip's statement that said, I knew him as a teenager, and then we had an affair. He was married at the time with 2 children as well, and he was in his 50s, and it was legal. That's enough for me, for the Prince's Trust, because you're working with people from 11 upwards.
I mean,
Don't
I
you
wonder.
think?
Yeah, I
think in that
just finally on
statement,
it.
everything
I
is
just
said.
wonder whether when he felt he had to write the legal thing, whether there was any moment of self-reflection on why he even had to use that word. I mean, I know you could argue, oh, he's trying to push against all of, but you know you're in a bit of a deep hole of sorts if you're having to even say the sentence "unwise but legal."
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not. It's not great having to write that.
And the day that statement came out, and I was messaging all the different people, and I was saying to call him, and I'm not ever going to say his name, a mistake. Imagine how that would feel, you know. Don't go digging anywhere else other than in that statement. Go through that statement and it's all there.
Finally, just final comment on this. Kimberly Jones, a narcissistic person will surround themselves with nice, impressionable people and turn them into flying monkeys without them even knowing. And I think that's a very cogent observation. Okay, we haven't touched upon this, and this story came up last week, and it's actually a very important story. This is the police, as from September, stating that they will no longer respond to issues, crimes, or situations, or, well, not crimes, but situations that have a sort of mental health aspect to them. They're only going to be dealing with any mental health crises or incidents where there's an immediate threat to life. This is a curious one because on the one hand you think, oh God, this is really, really awful, and it is awful that the police, more often than not, it's the police who are called out when you have a mental health breakdown or someone's threatening to kill themselves, or, you know, just the amount of time, certainly in London, you see numerous people walking the streets. I can think of 5 locally who are in a clear state
I find it scary.
of disarray. I mean, you know,
This is care in the
they're
community.
distressed.
This
They're
is our
distressed.
care in the community, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember when that came out?
Yeah.
Care in the community was the most uncaring thing ever.
Yeah.
I feel really strongly about
So the police,
this.
as from September, will not attend emergency calls if they are linked to mental health incidents from September. Now,
It's going to be quite difficult to work out.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's going to be, ironically, difficult to police the very idea.
I mean,
How
that's
do you
the
make
very,
that assessment?
But that within that is the very issue around mental health, that somebody could appear to be just
Precisely.
a nasty piece of work, and actually they're in a total crisis.
I would argue
But
that anyone
really-
who kills or is violent to anyone has some degree of a mental health problem.
I feel so much for the police, right?
Yes,
They are
yes,
constantly,
that's my thought.
they have been calling out for years now, saying they're unable to get on with police work because there is no one else to call when somebody is having a
Precisely,
mental
Russ,
breakdown.
precisely.
And we should be marching in the streets to the government. They have dropped the ball on everything here. I haven't heard anything coming back from the government about what they're going to do about this.
No, I haven't heard a
But the police have
response.
been pushed to this.
Well, it's a little bit
But
similar.
the other day I was listening on the radio to various people who were ringing in and saying that the police were extraordinary in their situation. Like one woman, her sister had just had a complete breakdown, was acting out, was violent, the family was scared, the police came, they were so kind, they were so... And these people were saying, it's not right for the police to do this and wanted to support them. But the thought that they wouldn't have been able to get anyone to come was terrifying, because she may have well have killed the family.
Absolutely. Well, look, Laura Lou says, I mean, it's really concerning. If I think of my Nanny Di, if I think of your, tragically, your ex-girlfriend, she had many incidents prior to tragically taking her life. And the police were involved in some of those interceptions prior to when she sadly did take her life. Laura Lou, so if someone's suicidal, they won't show up. My brother attempted suicide and he was luckily saved.
Sweet.
Will that not happen now? I think it's worrying. For me, there's a slight parallel with the idea that there's an assumption, teachers and the teaching, industry or, teaching community, schools find themselves having to pick the ball up around so many social care issues. Now, of course, it's an obvious point of interfacing with kids. So you go, oh, well, that's a problem, that's a problem, that's a problem. But teachers are there to teach. They're not also there, they can deliver some degree of social care, but not the extent to which is now kind of expected of them or the authorities rely upon. This is a similar sort of thing. So if you remove, teachers are being asked to do too much sort of social care or be too socially aware of what's going on rather than what they're actually employed to do. And the police now feel that they can't deal with these mental health crises. I think the big problem with this from September, I don't see how, and I mean, I was being a bit sort of kind of cavalier and silly about it, but I genuinely mean it when I say most violent acts or most violent crimes pivot around some degree of mental health. There's a mental health aspect to everything.
Yeah, I mean, look at all that. What was that figure that you got the other day for what alcohol costs the NHS?
25 billion.
25 billion. What does that what does that cost the police?
Yeah.
And also, how do you determine between somebody that has got very drunk because they've got a mental health and somebody that's very drunk? I mean, I get what they're saying, and I hope this pushes some movement. But I can't actually see how it's going to be put into place.
I think in a weird way, this is for everything that we've been highly critical of the police. Whatever you think of the police, there are just issues. You can only deal with so much.
And there's many, many very incredible people that are in the police force that run towards danger as we're running away. So it's only because. Yeah, the bad apples. But you know what? We have to go, unfortunately.
Yes, we absolutely do. And we were going to talk about the Mars bar, but we'll save that.
We'll have to do that tomorrow. Yeah. But listen, thank you so much for being with us. Please, I'll just reiterate again, just look at the statement. You don't need to look anywhere else. Leave everyone else alone. And...
What statement?
Phillips. Oh. And please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we're going live. And please, if you're listening on podcast, subscribe.